Uncle Hunky's fabulous horn.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Uncle Hunky's. It's I, your old friend, Mr. Fireman. Here we are, round 2 on the small horn build. Again, the main project was cutting this ideal tube into these wedge segments. Here's a separate wedge segment. Bada bing. Just in case you're catching up to speed at this point, there it is, all glued up. The last stage was getting the up pipe standing on there. I believe that's where we left each other. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've cut a bridge and glued it into place. If you can see this clearly, you can see there's not a lot of care taken to get it completely flush, because we're gonna band around it and then fill it, and that part will be not visible anyhow and plenty strong. So I didn't show you the bridge build. Don't beat me up. It's very difficult to sit around for an entire week with a project on hold waiting for the next segment. I'm of a mind to just keep on going and then show you things eventually where they're at, because there's lots of projects. Anyway, that's what a bridge looks like. It's just cut out of another tube, and this was the initial one that got fitted in a bit like that, and it looked okay, but it's too far down the tube. And I want the strength to be here, where we're going to build the lead pipe off of the down pipe here, out of this elderberry, and not empress, this is elderberry. And I'm going to be cutting this to length and splitting it and scraping it out in front of you. So I hope that works, because when it works, it's awesome. When it doesn't work, you get to see a middle-aged man cry on TV. It's such a pretty stick. I've got a nice color out of that through my secret methods, which I will show you someday if you are very nice. Here's a mouthpiece for it. I don't know if we'll get that far tonight. But initially, here is the veneer. This is a strip of maple veneer, and I'm going to band it around the bridge right there. We don't need nearly that much of it, so I'm going to cut some of this off, then make it a little bit thinner, and then soak it in hot water before the glue goes on, and then bind it in place with caution tape, and then it gets to dry for 24 hours while we work on the rest of the project. That should work. You don't really need to see me running under hot water, do you? Can you imagine me running it under hot water right now? That'll work. I'm probably overdoing it. It takes a long time for the hot water to show up here, so there we go. So there's that, nice and wet. Glue, recycled caution tape. This is one of my favorite ones. Just kidding. It's got a knot in it. It's not truthful. There's my life. There's my life right there. Sitting around untying knots in strips of plastic. Okay, so some of that's ready. Boop. if you can hear it, but the kitchen plumbing is slightly loose. And if you don't jam off the hot water tap, it slowly opens itself up and begins piddling in the middle of your video presentation. I'll be right back. I'll learn it. I can go down, excess glue can go around the perimeter of the trumpet project. You'll notice I call them fuhorns and trumpets and horns interchangeably. That's because those are all correct. A labraphone is a trumpet, is a horn, is an aerophone. Not all aerophones are labraphones, but all trumpets are horns. And all fuhorns are both trumpets and horns, although some of them are obviously more tuba-like or related, you know, horn instruments. So I'm just trying to line it up a little bit. Obviously the cross section of this thing is more of a V shape, so it's difficult to expect that. It's a bit much to expect the band to stay totally in line, parallel, and still hug the edge of the project. But let me concentrate for a second. This has got to go this way. A few wraps around while you've got the band, the veneer held down. I want it to stay in place where it got put. Once there's enough tension on it, should be able to tie it off. I'll go around a little bit first. See if I can squeeze it down from the inside. Oh, gone too far. I have just enough left to make a loop. Do that little half hitch. Boom. It's great. So here's the lead pipe, meaning where the mouthpiece attaches to the horn. And there's a nice curve there, but I don't want the S curve. I want to cut that part off and have kind of as much of this as I can get coming out of here initially, so as to have some trim to lose if I need to do some tuning. So I'm going to cut that. That is disturbing. Still filming. Why are you blinking red? You're just out of battery juice? No, I just charged you. Are you out of memory? You're filming. This little spoon is nothing more than a sugar spoon or a teaspoon with the end bent around and made into a scraper. In the exact same method that the tool was used to scrape out, the longer tool was used to scrape out the bigger sticks. Now for the moment. So you want two even pieces. You don't want the crack to go up the wrong way. And it is practice art form that I sort of do once in a while. I should do it more often. I'm going to be confident. Hey! Reasonable. Reasonable. A little thicker on that side, but two very solid halves, which can now be gouged out. Protect your edges. Try not to impact them in any way. I know I have my thumb across it now, and my thumb is, you know, pressing lightly upon the wood grain, but it has to be held while I scrape. It won't take long. That's the really neat part. This scraping is not even really carving. It's just getting the soft stuff off of the hard stuff. Elderberry is a nice, tough fruit wood. A little easier to carve than cherry. Still hard. And the polish waiting for you underneath this pit. My God! So exciting! So exciting. In college, I was going to be a science fiction fantasy illustrator. My training was all in illustration and design. I was determined to move into the industry and do wicked metal album covers and sword and sorcery fantasy novel covers and that sort of stuff. Why am I telling you this? Because you never know where you're going to end up. I am so happy now. Oh my God, it's ecstatic. Who knew that it was really just about scraping goo out of the inside of sticks? With a homemade tool. Oh. Oh. Cavalier trying to do this effortlessly in front of you. Sure, it's not making me look slim. Oh well. See a difference? This isn't the actual normal color of the inside of the pith, but these sticks have been soaked in an elderberry dye. I'm sorry, an empress bark dye bath that helped tint the outside, color the outside of the sticks. Obviously did the same on the inside, but nobody will know. So satisfying. Yeah. That's going to cost me a little something. I always crap at my students if they damage the table. They get to laugh at me now if they find that bit. Chunks off. There's the halves hollowed. That took a very small amount of time. And there's the two pieces fitted, dry fitted back together. difficult to see the crack. Behold my bead game. Spread it along the edges. Try not to get it in the trough. Try not to get too much. Try not to miss any bits. Alright, I'm beating both. What the hell? The danger, of course, is that you get a big bead down the middle, but you can put a stick or string up the thing once the two halves are back together and smooth it off. Oh, I'm not concentrating. There we go. Way too much glue. Totally unnecessary. Line them up. Don't do this with wet elderberry. When you split elderberry, if it's wet, those parts are going to warp away from each other right away. This has been curing after the pith was pulled out since it was harvested in January, which is not that long. I don't know why my voice is so high today. It's not that long. Not that long. Oh, it's not that long. Really, very recent. Outside. I'm going to keep the ink side of your caution tape. Away. Keep it away. I love making these little lead pipe tubes. I don't know why, it's so happy. It's like a little revolution to make it quickly and cleanly after 16 years of burning it out. That's got a little bit to do with it, doesn't it? I used to use fire to do this method, and it was stinky and, you know, dangerous. Ta-da! Well, the bead on the inside, fresh. Do my best to smear it flat with this paintbrush on both ends. A little bead on the inside is not optimal. You want a smooth tube. So there's the fat end. That's going to go into this skinny end of the horn there. It's not bad already. Even the angle isn't too terrible. I guess a little bit more there. Should be able to fit that in. I know I keep looking at the camera, but there's a red light flashing. I don't remember it talking about a red light flashing, so I'm being a little weird. Surprise! I would normally consider this rushing it to have just glued up the halves of the lead pipe and then begin fitting it. To do that right away is a rush. It's maybe silly. But the idea is to explore the edges of speed making without radically endangering myself for the project, if at all possible. I don't want to lack quality in this trumpet. At the same time, I don't want to make such a laborious game for you to watch that it's just, you know, thousands of hours of building and no payoff until we're all really old. Really? I guess it depends on who you're talking to, doesn't it? Might already be there. Tuneless whistling for your entertainment. There, we're in the gate. Anyway, if I don't push it too hard, I won't crack the tube. So I want to be gentle. Just see where it's touching and keep carving it back. So we get a little further in. A crossover of more than a centimeter, and that's plenty strong. I would still wrap that with veneer the way we did the bridge, of course. But that much crossover is good to go. It'll break somewhere else before it breaks there. Gravitating towards the elderberry lead pipe because it is such a much denser wood. The same reasoning I have to use the hardest woods I can find for mouthpieces, or carrier as they're called here. And the reason it's called a carrier is because it ends up serving a double function. I end up boring this out so that it will take a brass mouthpiece and carry it, but actually act as a wooden mouthpiece on its own. Anyway. Where are we at? Did I carve this out? Fitting, fitting, fitting. I end up cutting off most of that, I think, but it's getting in there. Okay, this time I'm not going to get distracted. I go all the way around, take off the whole layer. Concentrating specifically towards the tip. Where it's going to reach the narrower section anyway, up the tube. There we go. I don't think that was it cracking. Oh, no, it was. I have no patience. Well, it's not the end of the world. Put a bead of glue on the inside. Get my finger up in it. The access on this guy. What's it called? It's called the lead pipe. That's right. Why? Because it leads you to the rest of the horn. Oh. Ooh, bad news. Okay. First we're gonna spread that out a little bit. There's the crack. Just say no to crack. Cracks. Just say no to cracks. What was I talking about? Okay. Now, because I've busted it with my haste, I'm going to bind it with this tape. There we go. Now, I've been too hasty. Because I'm on TV. I can't think straight. Still filming. Didn't back carve this. So this little rasp will do the trick very quickly. Get that tip narrowed for a nice smooth transition. Boy, doing things with the camera is weird. I always wear where it's visible, you know, whereas on my own it'd be like right here. Okay, sawdust, wet glue, bad combo. Unless you're making filler, which I make, but that's not now. Right now, we want a clean bond. A little more of that stuff. Okay, look at the design of the horn. This pipe, not this part. Where is it going? There's the mouthpiece in a perfect world. Right about there. Maybe a little bit there. Oh, you can see it spreading. Oh well. Get found anyway. Ta-da! This is not right now, I think. I'm going to leave that well enough alone, let this cure, and we'll get back to you next week. Boom, boom. Thanks for watching.